last decade, scientists found something near the Chernobyl reactor that shouldn't exist at scale. Tree frogs, but not green. Black, almost ink black. Not a single mutant specimen. An entire shift across a population. And that's when the story changes. Chernobyl was meant to be uninhabitable. Life was supposed to end here. A contaminated scar on the map. A place where biology would lose. But instead, something else happened. When humans vanished from the exclusion zone, nature didn't slowly return like a patient recovering. It moved in. It adapted. And it took control of a radioactive landscape we can no longer survive in. But the worst part isn't what happened to the frogs. After 1986, the collapse. In the years following the 1986 disaster, animal populations across the exclusion zone collapsed. Radiation damaged DNA. Reproduction failed. Food chains destabilized. The first phase wasn't a slow decline, it was shock. Some animals died directly. Others survived long enough to pass damage forward. Insects vanished from certain patches. Small mammals fluctuated violently. Predators lost prey. And for a time, it looked like Chernobyl had become a biological dead end, a place where life could persist, and then quietly break. But nature did not disappear. It reorganized. And to understand why, we need to kill the most popular myth first. Because radiation does not instantly create super mutants. It doesn't hand out powers. It creates pressure. Relentless pressure. Every generation born inside the zone is tested against an environment that actively harms its biology. Cells are damaged. Repair systems are strained. Immune responses get pushed in directions they were never optimized for. Under that pressure, populations do one of two things. They collapse completely, or they shift, not into perfection, into survival. And survival here doesn't mean healthy. It means still functioning. It means the population continues, sometimes with trade-offs that don't show up in a single photograph. What emerged was not a healed ecosystem. It was a filtered one. Life remained, not because the danger was gone, but because only certain traits could persist in its presence. And some of those traits aren't subtle. They're written directly onto the body. The black frogs, selection in real time. One of the clearest examples comes from the eastern tree frog, normally bright green, a color built for leaves and sunlight, a skin tone that disappears into summer. But in and around the exclusion zone, researchers found frogs that were dramatically darker, some close to black. At first glance, it looks like a mutation story. It's not. Research suggests the shift wasn't random. Frogs with higher melanin levels can have higher tolerance in radioactive environments. Melanin may help absorb and dissipate ionizing radiation, reducing damage to sensitive tissue. And that matters because melanin isn't a magical shield. It's more like a thin layer of protection in a place where even small protection can decide who reproduces and who doesn't. This wasn't a miracle, it was math. Over decades, the green frogs didn't vanish overnight. They were outcompeted, slowly replaced by bodies that offered even minimal protection against an invisible threat. But there's a darker implication. If a population can shift this fast under pressure, it means the environment is constantly selecting winners and losers, even when we can't see it. How fast can nature rewrite the rules when the environment becomes a constant attack? And that question grows sharper when you remember. Radiation is only half the story. Because not every success in Chernobyl is about radiation. Sometimes the biggest change is simply the absence of humans, and the biggest twist isn't radiation. It's what happens when humans leave, and the ecosystem stops being restrained. The catfish. Not radiation, just no humans. The waters of the exclusion zone tell a different story, not of mutation, but of permission. When fishing stopped and river traffic vanished, aquatic ecosystems were released from pressures they had faced for centuries. No nets, no constant disturbance, no human removal of the oldest, biggest predators before they could ever reach their full size. And then came the Wells catfish. People have filmed enormous individuals here, fish that look unreal in dark water. Some estimates push past 7 feet and well over 200 pounds. Though exact weights are hard to verify without handling the animal. Here's what matters. This is not radioactive gigantism. This isn't nature powering up. These fish are large because they were allowed to grow undisturbed for decades. They are old, slow-growing predators that normally don't survive long in heavily fished rivers. So if the fish look monstrous, the reason is simple and unsettling. We removed ourselves, and time did the rest. But the story doesn't end with nature wins, because there's a darker layer to this success. Living near the riverbed, these fish can accumulate radioactive isotopes stored in sediment. Not glowing monsters, but living reservoirs. And that creates a brutal contrast. The ecosystem can appear abundant, even thriving, while still carrying contamination in its bloodstream. So the catfish aren't a symbol of radiation creating power. They're a symbol of time, and of contamination that doesn't go away just because life returns. And if predators can reach extremes simply because humans stopped interfering, then what were we exactly? Part of the balance, or the limiting factor? Bats. Success inside stress. Above the flooded basements and empty streets, another group of survivors dominates the night. Bats. More than a dozen bat species have been recorded in the exclusion zone, including the big-eared bat, built for precision in total darkness. Its oversized ears allow extreme echolocation sensitivity. It hunts insects inside collapsed Soviet buildings where light never reaches, and human presence never returns. Stairwells, ventilation shafts, empty apartments, not ruins, artificial cave systems. And this is where Chernobyl flips into something almost surreal. Human infrastructure, once loud, crowded, and hostile, becomes habitat. With fewer pesticides and no urban disturbance, insects can rebound, and that creates opportunity. But this is where Chernobyl gets uncomfortable, because across Chernobyl wildlife studies, researchers have reported biological stress in some animals, DNA damage signals, immune shifts, depending on species and hotspot exposure. Not always visible, not always immediate, and not identical across every part of the zone. Radiation levels vary sharply by location. Still, populations persist. The bats are not untouched, they are functioning. And that distinction matters. Because Chernobyl isn't just showing us survival, it's showing us what survival can cost, while still looking like success. And those costs may be written into predators next. Dark foxes. A pattern, not an accident. Red foxes are common in the exclusion zone, and over the years, visitors and footage have shown individuals with unusually dark coats. It's tempting to turn that into a neat story. Melanin equals protection. But here, the science is thinner than people think. Radiation can disrupt genetic pathways, and melanin can play protective roles in biology. But for fox coat color in Chernobyl specifically, rigorous population-level proof is limited in public literature. What we can say is this: in a landscape reshaped by human absence, selection pressures change. Camouflage matters, heat absorption matters, hunting behavior matters. And across time, even small advantages can spread. Chernobyl refuses to give simple victories. Survival here does not mean stability, it means continuation. The Headless Moose. In 2005, footage of a seemingly headless moose crossing a railway ignited rumors. Radioactive spirits, a cursed zone. Scientists later explained it as a visual illusion. Darkness, motion blur, harsh contrast. But the reaction revealed something deeper. Large herbivores were never expected to return so quickly. Not because biology couldn't handle it, but because people couldn't imagine abundance without humans controlling it. A moose moving confidently through radioactive infrastructure felt impossible, because it challenged an assumption we rarely say out loud, that land humans abandon should remain broken. But it didn't. It filled back in. Herbivores Boom. When the real pressure disappears. Moose, deer, and wild boar now thrive across the zone, and their comeback isn't subtle. It reshapes the whole food web. They benefit from something stronger than radiation is lethal: the disappearance of hunting, agriculture, vehicle traffic, and constant noise. And once the pressure of humans disappears, the land does something it has always done. It grows. Forests expand. Wetlands recover. Food sources multiply. And surveys have shown herbivore numbers in the zone can be comparable to nearby uncontaminated reserves. Radiation remains a factor, but it is no longer the dominant one. Their return reshapes everything. They feed predators. They alter vegetation. They trample paths through regrowth. They restore processes suppressed for centuries. And there's a psychological shock in that. We expected contaminated to mean empty. But nature doesn't interpret danger the way humans do. When nature returns in forms we no longer recognize, it forces a question we avoid. Was the land ever dead? Or did we simply forget how fast ecosystems respond when we stop pushing? Wolves. Radiation is survivable. Humanity is not. Gray wolves in Chernobyl roam across a landscape that would normally be sliced apart by roads, farms, and human disturbance. Tracking studies have shown wolves can travel long distances from the exclusion zone into surrounding regions. And inside the zone, human absence means something simple: space. Abandoned roads become travel corridors. Derelict buildings become shelter. Overgrown villages become hunting grounds. Infrastructure, once hostile, becomes an advantage. Radiation does affect bodies. Researchers have reported signs of biological stress in some wildlife, and debate remains about how strong the effects are at population level. Partly because exposure is uneven and hard to measure. Human pressure, by contrast, was immediate and lethal. When the hunters vanished, the wolves reclaimed an ecosystem that finally stopped pushing back. For these predators, radiation is survivable. Humanity is not, and if that line feels brutal, that's because it is. Bears. Freedom outweighs the cost. Brown bears have been confirmed in the Chernobyl exclusion zone by camera traps after being absent from the region for a very long time. With agriculture abandoned and forests rebounding, food sources expand. Berry bushes, fruit trees, prey animals, and the absence of humans changes everything. Bears move through forests and near abandoned settlements with far less fear, because the old threat is gone. Radiation lingers in the soil. But the absence of persecution can outweigh the biological cost. These bears are not adapting to radiation. They are responding to freedom. And that forces an uncomfortable realization. The most destructive force in this ecosystem was never invisible fallout. It was us. Chernobyl is no longer just a warning. It's a preview. Life did not wait for permission to return. It adapted. It reorganized. It filled the space we abandoned. But what we're watching isn't a fairy tale of recovery. It's a world that functions while carrying damage. A system that thrives while paying hidden costs. And as nature continues its quiet takeover, one truth remains. When humans step aside, intentionally or not, something always takes our place. If this exploration changed how you see survival, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. For more stories hidden at the edges of our world,